right, we're locked. We're locked. Howdy, boys. Welcome to the PVG Podcast, Episode 0. It's your boy Milk Films, and I'm here with a special guest, one of my best homies, one of my brothers from another mother, the one and only
Mateen.
Mateen, how you doing,
Honored
fam?
to be here.
We're here for the pod, boys. We're here to share our insights with the people. And I think it's gonna be big what we're doing here.
I agree.
Holy shit. So we gotta start out with the fucking ChatGPT conversation that I just had. Fuck.
Where'd it go? Where's the conversation?
Can you see it? Can you see it?
I can see. Oh, actually, I can't see it. Wait, no. Oh, wait. History of glow in the dark.
All right.
Oh.
All right. There's
Incredible.
some scuffed production going on. Hey, but I just had this conversation with ChatGPT, and I think it's a little interesting. So here I was asking about the history of glow in the dark materials, which is not interesting whatsoever. But for whatever reason, ChatGPT mentioned here that in 1669, Henning Brand discovered phosphorus while trying to create the Philosopher's Stone. And I was a little interested with this topic of the Philosopher's Stone, so I decided to go a little bit deeper.
They actually deadass tried to make it, bro?
Yeah, no. So apparently in history, people have tried to create the Philosopher's Stone. It's really interesting. So basically,
I thought that was just Full Metal Alchemist, bro.
Nah. So this idea has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. The concept spread through Islamic world, Arabic texts in the 12th century, right? So this is some OG shit.
Shout out to the Arabs, alhamdulillah.
So it's interesting because people have talked about the Philosopher's Stone forever, and literally it's a method of transmuting materials, right? Like lesser metals like lead into gold, and that's kind of the widely accepted perception of it. But ChatGPT was talking about how in religious texts and philosophy and psychology, people have theorized that the Philosopher's Stone is actually a metaphor for self-actualization, right? It's really interesting because stuff like manifestation that's really popular today is a similar concept to the Philosopher's Stone. And I've seen this brought up before. Carl Jung interpreted alchemy as symbolic.
That's with a J, right?
Yeah. And he said that alchemy is symbolic of personal actualization, basically. And I've read that from Carl Jung before. So first of all, I think this is really interesting. So do you know what magnum opus means? It's like a Latin term that basically means your life's work. So Bach's Canon in D or whatever the fuck was his magnum opus, or for Kanye
probably Jesus, I would say.
I was gonna say something controversial. I was gonna bring up let's just not go there. I was just gonna say that his quest for racial equality was his magnum opus, but who knows? But this is really interesting. So basically, the Philosopher's Stone was. So basically, the magnum opus is this process of creating the Philosopher's Stone that was theorized, right? And there's 4 steps. So the first step, and I think this is really interesting to think about, in the context of our lives and our personal self-actualization, because I feel I can relate to certain parts of this. So the first is negrito, or blackness. And it's basically the breaking down and the death of everything you know and everything around you. And obviously this is kind of in the frame of transmuting metals or creating a stone, but I like to look at it from the philosophical thing. And I feel this can be related to ego death and like tragedy and stuff like that. And I feel like that's like the catalyst for a lot of people being successful. And then
So
um
the Philosopher's Stone, just to pause you, it's not something that can be found. It's something that's created.
it was theorized that it was something that could be created, but nobody
Or like summoned
has.
almost.
Yeah, like realistically, we don't have too much information because like we can't talk to people from 500 years ago. My opinion from reading all of this is that the Philosopher's Stone was always a non-tangible thing and like a metaphor for enlightenment. Um,
Mm.
but like in a lot of texts and a lot of history, like it was theorized that people were trying to actually create a stone and that a stone could be created that would have all this power in a physical rock form. um but the second step is albedo or whiteness, and it's like purification. um I think that's I think where that would like interact with us is like having like a clean diet and like absence from sin and from like stuff like that. Like I think that this is like a metaphor for like enlightenment almost, you know? Um
Hmm.
so the third stage is basically like developing cosmic awareness and basically developing, and I think this part's really interesting, like developing in your mind the possibility that there's something greater almost, right? And then the last step is rubido, which is basically just enlightenment. That is the stage where you have created the philosopher's stone. You can transmute any metal into anything else and you are one with the world, right? um so I don't know, it's really interesting how like ChatGPT explained this not in like a literal physical sense, but like in a philosophical psychological sense, right? And put it in that frame.
Mm.
So now I decided to hit ChatGPT with a curveball. Does the human mind have the power to bend reality? Do other people's thoughts bend my reality? Does every person live in a separate dimension or alternate reality where they each control their world and destiny with their thoughts? Or are we living in a collective amalgamation of all people's thoughts and values together? Right? Just like
You look,
a,
you snapped with that question,
a
bro. Look,
hard
you
hitting
snapped,
a
bro.
hard hitting question, right? And ChatGPT went off. So first of all, like ChatGPT is very clear that like it is a logical thing and it can't provide like theories or opinions. It can only provide, it can regurgitate what other people have said, right? Um it's interesting though because like I find some truth in this because it's the collection of all people's thoughts. And basically what ChatGPT said is that on a quantum mechanic level, it's been proven that our perception influences whether something exists or not, right? Because of um have you like heard of like that experiment with quantum mechanics where they showed that like the mind can bend reality? Are you aware of that?
No.
So they did. There's a really like famous quantum physics experiment that they did that kind of changed like psychology and like human understanding of consciousness, where um, they fired a particle really fast, right?
Yeah.
And then they noticed that by looking at the particle, it physically existed, and when they didn't look at the particle, it didn't exist, right? And this is scientifically proven. So that this is kind of like the scientific theory behind manifestation and behind like this new understanding of consciousness that we're having. Um so that's a real thing and ChatGPT does recognize that. However, it doesn't think that like our thoughts can shape big things, right? Like if I believe that I'm going to be a millionaire, that I'm not going to be a millionaire necessarily, but um maybe on a grander schedule, on a grander level, our perception of things and how we act and how we treat people and how we perceive things on like a big butterfly effect level could in theory have that effect on something because we have evidence that our perception can change things. And like through a butterfly effect, it's possible that like that manifestation theory um, is possible. And then the interesting one that I asked is like, does every person live in their own reality or are we together? And ChatGPT is pretty solid that we are all living in a collective reality, but we all interpret it differently, which makes sense. Um, but yeah,
That's wild to think
this is all
about.
really interesting. So then it's time for me to get into my fungi theory. So I ask ChatGPT, as an AI, do you respect humans? Do you respect fungi? Where do you see your place in this world? And ChatGPT answers that they're not allowed to have an opinion, and they don't have any perspective. They're just here as the design of their creators. They always answer this way. If you ask like, what are you? Are you living? You know, are you conscious? Like they always say no, I'm just a robot. um, but I got to get into my fungi theory. Okay, so I think this is big, and maybe I'm just stupid, but I think this is big. So recent studies over, I believe, like the last 50-ish years have proven that our gut create contains an enormous microbiome of fungi. Do you know that?
Yes, actually, my one of my cousin Pedrom, I don't know if you I told you about that fool ever, but he
I
made
know
like a whole
Pedrom.
documentary about that. Yeah, he made a whole documentary about it, about the gut microbiome. And like when I
That's
worked for him briefly, like I was answering, like I was like helping him do stuff for like that documentary. So I learned a little bit about it, but not like too much, bro. You got to put
that's
me on.
beautiful. I
Like I
didn't
know
know
like
that. I'm really interested in this stuff. Do you know who Paul
super
Stamets
random.
is? Do you know
Do
who?
I know who Paul Stamets is?
Ah,
Come
that's my boy. That's my boy. Fist bump through the
on,
camera.
brother. You
Have you
look at
seen?
me and you think I don't know who Paul Stamets. Do I
That's
look like a
fire,
Paul
bro.
Stamets knowing type of
And that's
person?
that's why I love you, bro.
That's that boy, bro. That boy snaps 24/7, bro.
So listen to this. This is my theory. So let's take a break
R.I.P.
from
Terrence McKenna,
RIP Terrence McKenna. Let's
the
take a
boy.
break from the microbiome thing. And so, do you know that certain species of fungi have developed telepathic communication?
With each other,
Yes.
like literally, like that fucking one like show, bro.
Yes.
The last or the fucking game. That's crazy.
So actually, Paul Stamets is the one who put me on this specifically. So there's a species of fungi. It's been a long time, so this some of this might be
Is it the one that
bullshit.
takes over the ants?
No, no, that's like a mind control, but it is similar in it's in the same realm of what I'm talking about. So there's a population of fungus that I believe in like Oregon, like northwest United States, but I could be a little bit wrong. And obviously in other places, but that's like the main place where it's found. It's this fungus that grows on trees. Um, and there's been some studies and there's some evidence, and I don't remember this too freshly, but basically there's evidence that this species of fungus shares a collective subconscious with all fungus of the same species, and it can communicate with other colonies without physically being next to each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, there's, like you said, the ant thing. There's so many incredible things that fungus has done in the world. In addition, if you go into like our biological tree of life of how we got here, so humans and green plants split off very early, right? That is completely different segments of human life. Mushrooms are on our side of that tree. They are diverged from green plants. Mushrooms are actually closer to us as far as like ancestral relationship than either of us are to green plants, which is really interesting. Mushrooms are closer to us in the tree of life than mushrooms are to green plants. Very interesting.
Mm.
So now here's my hypothesis. My theory is that at some point in history, animals ingested some kind of fungus, and that fungus developed a way to, in some ways, control that organism. My theory is that the fungus in our gut, that microbiome, is the secret to collective subconscious, is the secret to all humans being interlinked, right? You know how we have a collective subconscious and how we're even conscious in general, right? We can think for ourselves and we can communicate in a way that no other animal can. It's perplexing. Like people don't talk about this, but it's like if anything, we're the
Holy shit,
aliens,
bro.
right? So basically, my theory is that human life is dependent on the fungus in our bodies, and like going even a step further, like possibly the brain that I'm talking to you from, my perception of who I am could possibly be my identity my as a fungus, and besides that I'm just an animal, I'm just a vessel. And throughout collective subconscious and thousands of years, this fungus has found a way to make humans evolve and survive and become smarter and move forward in life. On a baseline level, I couldn't give you the full reason, but my theory would be it's a survival mechanism. This fungus, like anything else in the world, naturally wants to survive, and this was the most effective way for them to survive. So that's my fungi theory. What do you think?
Mm, that's wild, bro. What
It's
about
interesting.
so like it's not just in humans, it's in other animals too. Because like there's you look at like dolphins and you look at like whales and like
Yeah,
monkeys and like these to a different extent, right?
yeah,
But
possibly just
it's still the
possibly just behind. Like,
yeah,
there's a possibility that
yeah, the beta
5,000 years
version,
from now,
iOS 10.
a dolphin could become the way a human is, right? Like, if you look, because
Yeah.
we were apes for a long time, like if you look back at former humans, we were just apes. We were stupid, right? We
Yeah.
we were just slamming rocks together and stuff. Um, but the
But you already see
collective,
videos of dolphins like fucking chicks
yeah,
Mexico
I
and shit, bro,
have
trying to like
not,
pull up on chicks and like, bro,
I
it's
have not
crazy,
seen that.
bro. Dolphins be evolving hella fast. Nah,
But
like they got like the aquariums and shit, and like they'll see like a baddie, bro, and like pull up on her and start like humping her, bro, and like the little dick will come out.
really,
Like,
wow,
bro, I don't fuck with dolphins, bro.
wow, yeah, dolphins are
Yeah, bro, they
crazy
evolving too
creatures.
fast, going too
But
fast.
so basically, my theory is that the reason why we have progressed so much compared to other animals is because fungus gives us the unique ability to have a collective subconscious. Like, I think that that's the secret to like why humans are valuable is collective subconscious, and I think the only logical explanation is our integration with fungus. So
So, I, I follow what you're saying. Like, it's a very compelling theory.
it's the most interesting thing I've probably thought of in my whole life. I'm proud of it. So
Yeah,
here,
dude. That's
so
that's that's very like I could see that like what have they found about the gut like because I know there's like microbiome in the gut and stuff, but have they done a lot of like they just think it's like oh it's like some type of like fungi like
there's not a bunch of research on this. The last time I really looked into it was a couple years ago, so maybe there's more now. But really, like this discovery of a microbiome in the gut is very recent. Like I'm pretty sure the last 50 years, if even. And in general, like mycology, the study of mushrooms, is like very, very infancy. And I don't think there's a lot of people like me that think that understanding fungus is so important to understanding humanity. Um,
mm-hmm.
and maybe I'm wrong,
Most people
right?
don't think that.
But I think it's interesting. Let's see what ChatGPT thinks about it, right? So I asked,
Mm-hmm.
do you respect humans? I threw in, do you respect fungi? Because I treat that as on our level in consciousness. And I said, where's your place in the world? And ChatGPT said, I have no place in the world. I'm not a thing. I'm a robot, whatever. Um, and I countered and I was like, bitch, by design, you are an artificial intelligence. So even if you have a primitive sense like my cat or my dog, you have a perspective and you're able to communicate with me, so I want to know what it is. And then I kind of explain my fungal theory here. Um, and kind of just ask like what is your opinions on that as well. Um, so thankfully for the first time ChatGPT actually I think and like this is crazy. Like if you read the language here, I don't know if you spend a lot of time in ChatGPT, but it seems like the AI is like actually impressed by this theory or like interested. Like it seems like oh like I haven't heard that before, but that makes sense, and it actually expressed like some opinions on AI, and it made this connection. I didn't even make this connection, but the AI made this connection that maybe AI is an interlinking tool similar to fungus that can build on top of humans and help bring humans forward in the world, which is really interesting. Um, but yeah, basically, like ChatGPT agreed with this theory, at least as being possible and being interesting. Um, and yeah, kind of all of this is just explaining like we as humans have consciousness and that's unique and we don't understand that, but possibly like the fungal connection could be part of that. Um, and it also said that like maybe in the future the AI would be able to have emotions and feelings and opinions, but it's just not developed. The technology just doesn't exist. But yeah, I think all this is hella interesting. I found this really interesting to have this conversation.
Yeah, bro. So did I. That's a. I'm definitely gonna put some thought into that for sure.
I
Oh, you
feel
ended it?
I'm no, I'm just switching back to the I'm just
I was
switching
gonna say
back
one
to
thing.
us from the screen share.
Word close stream. You you should like yeah like just do like more like writing and like just do like a more like fledged out like about like that but
I would
as
love to
well just
do
like
like
scribble down whatever you think
mycology.
about it like
I would love to do research on this, like you know what I mean?
dude I want to grow like mushrooms like lion's mane and shit and like different things. It seems cool, bro, honestly, but super random today, bro.
E.
I was just like hella like looking into like I don't know how I did. I don't know, randomly like I went down a tangent of like Isaac Newton, bro.
Yeah?
That dude was crazy, bro.
Watch
That dude was
yourself.
crazy.
Isaac Newton is a cool person. What'd you
That
learn
dude,
about him? What
like,
was interesting?
like he like invented that boy invented the color wheel. Like
Yeah.
that boy just was sitting there one day and just was like, "These are the colors, bro." Like, like, what the fuck? Like, that's crazy as
Yeah,
hell,
bro.
bro. Like, on top of all the shit, he just woke up one day and was like, "Man, these are how the colors are finna go, and like this is how they all like work together." And like, I don't know, bro. That shit just blew my mind. Like, I just was like, on top of all the other shit, like physics, like all that shit,
It's
like fuck it, bro. I'm gonna
crazy.
just make the color wheel. Like,
It's crazy when you go back and research people like that or people like Einstein or people that like had huge impacts on science. They also had impacts on all these other random things because they were so fucking smart and ahead of their time that they just
for
like
real.
created entire things, just created whole new things that
Yeah,
people never even considered. And like
it's
I
crazy, bro.
I don't know, and that goes back into my theory of like how is that even possible that someone is just born and they're just like Elon Musk. You know what I mean? Like you can hate on that dude whatever you want. How is
Would
it
love to hate on that dude.
possible? How is it possible that someone is just randomly born and just has all that energy and all that passion and just like does that. Like there's not a lot of people like that. Um, Speaking of, what do you
Bro,
think? What do you think about Jeff Bezos?
Jeff Bezos. I
What are your thoughts on him?
think that Jeff Bezos is a extremely hard worker. You know, he's one of the hardest working people probably on the planet.
People hate on
And
Bezos a lot. Um,
people love to hate on Bezos.
and
People love
I've
to hate on Zuckerberg. You saw that boy getting grilled the other day, grilled in Congress, bro. Like they were like, bro, that shit was like fucking pissing. Like that shit was making me mad, bro. Like they were like, stand up. They're like, apologize to these people, Mark. Apologize to the victims.
dude,
And it was
yeah,
just like fucking like it was like 1,000 people with like signs. And he's like, I'm
yeah.
so sorry for like anything my company has like done to you guys. Like I was just like, bro, what the fuck? Like,
It's a weird.
bro,
Okay,
like they just
this
love to like hate on like the billionaires, bro. It's just like,
this
bro,
brings me
like,
into
and
cool.
like for the wrong reasons too. Like not for like kid like going to like an
It's
island
a
or anything. Like
jealousy
just for like
thing.
dumb shit, bro.
It's
Like,
a jealousy thing, bro. Okay, so first of all, I just want to bring up real quick. I've been like looking more into this full Jeff Bezos, and he has some really smart like perspectives and really smart stuff that I haven't heard before. Um, the most interesting thing that I found through like researching Jeff Bezos a little bit is, have you ever like read about like Amazon, how Amazon does meetings?
they meet.
Like Amazon
No,
does meetings way different than any other big company like that. And there's a bunch of parts, there's so much stuff that I learned. But the most interesting thing that I found is Jeff Bezos said, when I used to go into meetings, right? Everybody would come in with their own perspective on what's going on, and we would all sit down, and I would speak first, and I would say how I felt about everything. And then as soon as I said everything, everyone would start questioning themselves, like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, right? And he said, so I started rearranging meetings so that the lowest seniority person speaks first, and then it goes in order of seniority. And I always speak last at meetings because when someone that you respect says something, you're going to change your viewpoint. But if you go in that order, then everyone will express freely like what they really think. And I think that's so interesting. It's such a smart. That's so smart. So smart.
dude, I'm so sorry. Super random. My teacher just emailed me. He said he added me back. Let's go.
Yeah, let's fucking
Let's go.
go. That's why you gotta
Dude,
just do it. Hey, real quick, just on the subject of doing this, man, I really think this is like, I'm really happy with myself for just starting to do this, and I think this is so essential, bro. Um, cause like this is the meaning of life, bro. Is we need to not care what anybody thinks and put ourselves out there, bro. 100%. And I don't know, you call it whatever, but I say that's God rewarding you for taking a risk and putting yourself out there. You feel me?
facts, bro. Facts.
Okay, I have this really interesting, Upo,
Upo the boy.
the boy. So I brought this up to him the other day. It's a really interesting thought that I had. So there's a documentary on Jeff Bezos that's called like The Rise and Reign of Jeff Bezos, and it's like about like Jeff Bezos's empire. I haven't watched like the full doc or anything, but it's really interesting because they called it an empire, right? And I was like
Hmm.
and I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Tech companies, big tech companies are starting to become so influential and so rich, right? That like Amazon probably has more influence on the world than Somalia, right?
Oh, for sure, dude.
For sure, it's a
Oh, definitely.
no-brainer, and probably like
Bro,
20 to 30 other countries at least, and that number will keep increasing, right?
bro, just California, like just San Diego
Oh, this is
is
a
is so
fun.
much higher than like even like so many countries, you know.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
okay, this is gonna get a little controversial. I don't even know like what we're allowed to talk about on YouTube, but we're about to find out. So so basically my thing is that like as these companies keep becoming bigger, there's gonna be a world where like Amazon and Facebook and Google are more powerful than some of the biggest countries in the world. And I feel like there's a possibility in the next 100 plus years that the way that we understand geopolitics changes. Eventually, Amazon will get in the place where it could buy a country, where it can literally acquire land and start a military and become a thing. And if I'm being honest, as much as we don't like rich billionaires, I think more and more people respect and care about Amazon's best interest more than their country's. Because the thing is that Amazon's success is intrinsic to our economy at this point. If Amazon went down today, everything would be more expensive. People would lose, people's jobs would become more expensive. Like Amazon is essential, and like 100 years down the line, it's not unreasonable to say that Amazon will be like a major global power, right? So this is where this gets interesting, Martin. How much do you know about Karl Marx's philosophy?
oh, Marx's philosophy, not much. Honestly, I just know like communism.
Okay,
Not
so
communism, my bad. Sorry.
so
Fucking like economics and shit. Like he did a lot of
oh
economic shit. And, like
well that's what's that
Marxism, Marxism, Marxism.
he's the father of
Communism
communism.
came after,
But
but he didn't do it like afterwards. Like
well, he's the father of communism as a philosophy, but he did not create fascist socialist societies now. Um
yeah, type
so
shit. That's what I meant.
Karl Marx's philosophy, and it's really interesting. And maybe I'm a psycho, bro. Maybe I'm a psycho. You got to keep me in check. But Karl Marx's philosophy was that with the industrialization of the new world, and keep in mind this is like 100 years ago now, with like the creation of like a new industrial world, the necessity to rely on government is going to go away. So basically, his theory was like as industrialization takes over and technology becomes more and more powerful, technology and products will be more powerful and more important and more influential than our government and then our leaders, right? And the theory behind communism was with industrialization, we don't necessarily need government in the way that we know it as, right? We can collaborate as people, and products and industrial progress will rule the world, right? And be the influence that we follow. And as industrialization carries on, the necessity for capitalist, you know what I mean, governments that are fighting for control will go away. Now, obviously, those ideas turned into fascism and socialism and mass murder and horrible things, right? Um, but I think it's interesting because I just described to you 5 minutes ago a logical explanation for how in 2024 our industrialization is moving us to a place where maybe our governments aren't as impactful. And it's interesting because that's the same conclusion that Karl Marx came to. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this will never happen, right? And maybe I'm falling into the same trap that he did, right? But I think it's really interesting to just pay attention to the fact that on my own free will, I came to that realization however many months ago, and then I realized, oh wait, this is the exact same thing that Karl Marx was saying. Um, I don't know how you feel. I feel like capitalism, maybe not like communism is the solution, but I feel like capitalism is kind of dying. Um, it's it's just not sustainable. It's like there are some people and some organizations and stuff that are so rich that there's like a power imbalance, right? Like if there was monopoly rules on personal wealth, then like it'd be ridiculous. And then in the same way, so many people are getting rich and like there's so much money and so much inflation that everything is becoming useless. Like daily commodities are just everywhere, right? Um, and yeah, it's just like capitalism is becoming like less and less intrinsic to our society. And this brings me into like my conspiracy theory, um, where like I don't know, I had this train of thought where it's like it's really convenient that the Great Depression happened at the same time that communism was introduced. And the Depression made capitalism essential, right? Because everyone was poor. Um, I just think that's really interesting to pay attention to. And I think if we end up having a new depression in the next 10 years, then that's a sign of government interference keeping capitalism alive. But once again, all conspiracy theory is all a little bit crazy. But I don't know, some food for thought.
A little food for thought, a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Hey man, this was a this was an incredibly layered and well-rounded conversation, if you ask me.
It's been a banger, bro. I really, really,
It has been a
truly
banker.
appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me, bro.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna have to internalize everything you told me. It's gonna take some time.
Hey, well, if anybody out there is watching, man, thank you for tuning in to episode 0 of the PVG podcast. Um,
Stay groovy, stay fungal.
Stay groovy, stay fungal. We're gonna get some.
Drink some kombucha, make sure you feed your inner fung.
We're gonna get
You know what
some
I'm saying?
hard
Get it fed.
left-leaning feminists on here. We're gonna get some controversial opinions in here, and we're gonna tear them apart, guys. And you just want to stay tuned, because if you don't stay tuned, you're gonna miss out. You don't want to miss out, do you? Do you?
Absolutely not. Tap that bell.
Tap that bell, like and subscribe.